Let's set the scene. You have several children, you're 29 years old, you are a veteran, you're married to a firefighter, and you got a lot of shit on your plate. But then one day you wake up and you're like, hey, I'm going to run for Congress and I'm going to have this whole support system around me. Allow me to do so while you're still waking up at 6 a.m. to bring your kids to the park while you write postcards on the bench to voters. Well, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today with our candidate. So pour a drink because we are bringing you into our group chat about politics and the next generation of leaders in our country. This is Political Playlist Happy Hour.
Welcome to Political Playlist.
All right, are we ready, guys?
Happy Hour.
Happy Hour.
We fucked that up so bad.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Political Playlist Happy Hour. I'm Anna Muskie-Goldwyn.
And I'm Anthony Barquette.
And what I just described is the day of the wonderful candidate that we are interviewing today, Elizabeth Dempsey Beggs. She is running in Virginia's 1st district in the Democratic primary. And you will hear towards the end of this interview, she describes what her typical day looks like, where she's running on 4, maybe 5 hours of sleep, getting up with her I believe she said 4 foster children that she has with her husband. And she takes the day by storm as any young parent would, but on top of taking care of her children and having her husband be literally a first responder, she's also running for Congress. So she's super impressive. This race is really important because it is a Republican-held seat, but in a district that is becoming more and more Democratic. And she is vying to be the Democrat that will run against the incumbent Republican. So what's the deal with Elizabeth Dempsey Beggs, Anthony?
Yeah. Well, one thing I love about our primary watch and interviewing these candidates is it makes me feel really unaccomplished when you talk to someone like her. I mean, she's only 29 years old. She's a mother of 4, and she's married to her husband's a firefighter. And one thing that I really loved about our conversation was she shed light on the foster care system and child welfare that really both parties are just missing the mark on and not really helping. That was something I really learned today from her. 2 was her messaging on data centers. That seems to be a major topic today. And her community was able to come together, grassroots organizing, and they were able to stop a data center that was essentially going to be built in her backyard. And just the things that come with that, right, was if it got built, she said she has a son who's deaf in one ear, going deaf in the other, how that was going to hurt the house that they have. It would essentially make their house have zero value, which a lot of their equity is in. Right. So these are a lot of issues that some people are not really thinking about today with that issue. But Elizabeth was great. It was a very good conversation. And she is in a tough primary. She has there's 7 other candidates 7 total candidates that she's running against.
Yeah. And I mean, just to kind of mention a little bit of her bio here, she joined the military when she was 17. She joined under Obama, was sort of brought up under Trump, then served in combat as a captain under Biden. We talk a little bit about that. She comes from a long line of service workers. Yeah. As we mentioned, she's married to a firefighter, but in her family, there's Vietnam veteran, there's police officers, there's nurses, and she just has this tenet of service that is, she really takes it seriously. And I think that those are the kinds of people, left, right, or center, that we want in office, are people who take that idea of public service very seriously. So, in her campaign, in this, sort of tough Democratic primary, and then potentially in the general election, people can expect that Elizabeth Dempsey Beggs is definitely going to be, pushing that idea of service and that idea of being there for the public as much as she's there for her family. And I think that comes through a lot when you hear her speak. So without further ado, let's chat with Elizabeth Dempsey Beggs, who is running for Congress in Virginia's 1st district. Elizabeth Dempsey Beggs, thank you so much for joining Political Playlist Happy Hour. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? And thank you for having me.
Yeah, we were just musing before this about you're in the final stretch of your campaign. How are you feeling?
Yeah, so while we're recording this, we're at 21 days left until election day, and it's a mix of emotions.
Mhm.
I thought I'd be a lot more like, how are we going to pull this off? How are we going to do it? But I'm really trusting the systems that we had in place, knowing that we were going to get here, knowing myself well enough to know, okay, I'm going to want to panic, but it's okay. We know what we're doing. The system is running the way it's supposed to run. We built up a team that we trust, and it frees me up just to talk to voters and to listen and hear what's going on there, not have to react so much. And the other part of me, though, is sad that this has been the past 6 months of what I've been doing. And I truly have loved campaigning in the way of getting to listen and hear the issues in my district and get perspectives that I probably wouldn't have heard if I
Mhm.
was in this position. And, hopefully we win. And if we do, though, it will look a little different.
Mhm.
There will be a plethora of money flooded into this race. It will be one of the most watched race in the nation, being, a 20-year incumbent that we're flipping a seat from. And this is the first time it's truly possible if we don't miss this opportunity. That means my life will look a lot different at the end of this, either way. So
Yeah.
part of me is kind of sad that like this part of it will be over.
Right, right. It's like you're moving out of the infancy and maybe into the actual raising of the campaign going forward. I wanted to start by talking about something that clearly is a huge tenet of the campaign that you're running, which is your background of service, your desire for service, your family's desire for service. And, when you launched this campaign, I I feel like that service mindedness was definitely a part of why you did it, and specifically having a military background. I think that as a non-serving woman, I've always am admirable of women in who have served, who are running for office. And we've talked to a lot of veterans in doing these candidate interviews, and I just want to know, like, what did serving in the military inform about your worldview, your political view that propelled you into wanting to take the step to run?
Oh, that's a loaded question, with some different tenets and answers to it. But I'd like to address the political view side of it and what serving in the military did there. There's such a misconception that everybody who's a veteran or actively serving is very Republican, MAGA, owns patriotism, that kind of view. And that's really not true. Traditionally, you do have a lot of like McCain era Republicans,
Mhm.
military, but so many of them are anti-Trump, and people don't
Mhm.
understand the Hatch Act, which means if you're wearing the uniform, you can't say anything. And it's really gotten to the point where if you're wearing the uniform now, even without your uniform on, you need to be very careful what you're saying.
Mm.
You cannot post online, even like an anonymous account if it gets tracked back to you.
Mhm.
So now, obviously, that's against the precedent. There's stuff that, would not be allowed under the Hatch Act, but is very much encouraged and let slide that is pro the president. And that just feeds into this misconception. But I remember there's a time Donald Trump said, "Oh, all of the military voted for me. They love me." Blah. And I'm like, well, I didn't. And my husband didn't. And my friend here didn't. And some of these people are still active. So like, I'm not going to out them. But I'm like, but that's not true. And I can't say anything about that.
Mm.
Mm.
And that really upset me that I was being politicized in that way. And let's be clear, every party has always politicized the military, but not like this,
Mhm.
not in this manner. And to me, that was incredibly just unacceptable. And then getting out. So I went in under Obama, commissioned under Trump, served under Biden, got out. Now we're in the second wave of Trump. And we have people like Hegseth,
Mhm.
been very anti-women serving in combat arms, really anti-women in general. But I was one of the first women to serve in combat arms. So, like, I am one of those women that he really does not like, mostly 'cause he's intimidated and scared of us. But,
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there that maybe
yeah, there's
Yeah.
for a different kind of
Hegseth would have
podcast.
a really fun time. But I still have friends who are serving there.
Yeah.
I was at OSET one stop unit training. So, like, I trained women to be on tanks, enlisted soldiers who are still serving. I have a duty and obligation to them to protect them in their service. And I can do that a lot easier as a congressional representative than I can as Captain Dempsey.
Mm.
So that was a big part of it for me. Roe also fell while I was in uniform. And, I know personally that if you are stationed somewhere where abortion's not legal, it's not legal on a military base, your entire future is then at the hands of if your commander will give you leave,
Mm.
or if you can afford to take the leave, or if you're not at training. People who are protecting our rights, who took an oath to the Constitution, are not protected by us right now. And to me,
Mm.
that is unacceptable. But the whole worldview, I actually went into the military probably still saying I was a Republican. I never liked Trump. I left the party during Trump, but I wouldn't have said I was a Democrat yet when I went into the military. And I think I probably would have been scared to at first say that. But I saw how many things got better under the Biden administration for active duty. What Dr. Biden did for military spouses, for military families was incredible. That really affected people's quality of life as well as the VA. And then I saw how Donald Trump handled COVID and how the Black Lives Matter movement and all that while I was in uniform and that division. And there's just so much unpacking that I did during that time. It's the time I became a mother. So things that really radicalize you all at one time, deconstructing Christianity and going back to the church and understanding Christian nationalism and being in a place where when COVID hit, we did not worry that we had a child on the way because we had access to childcare. We had access to healthcare. And we didn't take time off if we got COVID. We were just sent home and were paid. We didn't have to worry about any of that. And that is not the situation the majority of the country is. And to me, that was unacceptable. That safety net was there for me and not other people.
Yeah. I think a lot of people feel that way.
So it seems that you come from a family of public service as well. And if we did our research correctly, we saw someone in your family is a Vietnam vet. We have police officers, nurses. What would you say is one of the biggest lessons you take from your upbringing and service that the political world is kind of missing right now?
That it's not about you. And it's okay for you to want things and to want to have a good life and work hard for your family. That's fine. But we are such a small piece of this puzzle. And that when you do things to make the lives better of somebody else, that feels good for you too.
Right.
That does feel really good. And that's okay. So maybe it's selfish to serve because it does feel good. But I look at the way I was raised that we took care of other people. And I look at how I'm wanting to raise my children. And it's that we take care of other people. My family motto is when you have more than you need, you build a longer table, not a higher fence. To me, we all have something to give. And it's not just money, but it's time, creativity. Anything artistic is not my thing at all. But other people have that. I did a whole project online in the foster care space of kind of connecting people who might want to get involved in care but aren't ready to become foster parents, but have something to give. They might not even realize there's a connection there. If you are a great pianist and you can teach piano lessons, offer those services for free to someone in care. Same with swim lessons and haircuts. You have horses. These children might never have an opportunity to even meet a horse. Invite them out. And being able to just get connected in ways. We live in a society right now that is so individual. Even
everyone needs help.
Weird to ask. It's weird to ask your friend for a ride to the airport, right? There's an app for it. We can utilize it. We can make profit over that. It's okay for things to be profitable. It's not okay when profits come above people and community every single time.
Oh my God, I feel like I used to drive so many people to the airport, and now I'm like, what?
So true. That's so true.
It is, right? You get that time with your friend, and it's okay, well, now I owe you this, or you owe me this. I truly believe that when you take care of other people, the universe is going to take care of you.
Right, and we've all kind of started to view these things as a chore, and I think that then trickles up to people in leadership positions where it's okay, well, if that's the kind of the general society feeling, then of course our policies are going to reflect that to the nth degree.
If someone picks you up from the airport, though, that's a true friend.
Love.
I was even joked with my parents when I go to visit them. They're like, we're picking you up from the airport. I'm like, I'll just take an Uber. And they're like, we will be there an hour early.
That's true.
My in-laws always we'll pick you up from the airport. They're 2 metro stops away from the airport. And I'm I promise you it's faster for me to walk on the metro and show up. It's
it's what matters.
Yeah.
That's what matters. To get to talking about some policy here, you just mentioned foster care. And one of these, elements of your service-minded life is that you're a foster parent. And I think that I have to imagine that's not an immensely popular thing for members of Congress who are currently serving. And so it's very exciting to have potentially that experience heading into Congress. Can you talk a little bit about how being a foster parent and witnessing that system, but also kind of the more general system of like social safety net and other children related issues, how that has shaped your view and the policies that you would want to pursue in Congress?
Yeah, I mean, I could write you a dissertation on this.
I love it.
It's also interconnected, and I think
Yeah.
one thing here is, like I said, the big ugly bill did cut a lot of services for foster care, and people didn't intentionally mean to do that. But to me, that shows there are things that we still agree upon as Americans in a world where we're meant to be so divided and there's billions of dollars making us think that we're divided. There are key tenets that we still agree on. And one of those is that we should take care of kids that are in foster care. And that gives me hope that there's a base, right? But then you're like, okay, well, where do we get that disconnect then? Why is policy affecting them? And when you ask that question, you dive into it, so much of what you find is the money side of this, right? There's no money in foster care, both in the we're not funding it and there's no profit to be had, and also in the no one's taking the time to talk to social workers. You want to know why? They're not donating to your campaign. Asking someone who doesn't even make a livable wage, which, to be clear, CPS foster workers do not even make a livable wage. They don't have $2,000, $3,000 to donate to your campaign. They don't have $5 to donate.
Right.
They shouldn't. Their voices should be heard anyway. Even as someone deeply involved in the system, when I asked one of our social workers, what would you change? My job is to write the policy on it. I don't need you to tell me the policy, but like, where would you put attention into? And their answer was something that I didn't even know was happening, and I wouldn't have thought of as someone deeply ingrained in this. But she's like, it doesn't matter because nobody asked us. So big reason I got into this was to be a voice for everybody who cannot afford a lobbyist. And kids in foster care definitely can't afford a lobbyist. And there's so many people that want to help, and we make it so difficult. But then the other side, and where I really got into a lot of this too, was the majority of removals are financial. There that a family has fallen on tough times. Let's be very clear. You are much closer to having your children move from your home than you are to becoming a billionaire. We all are.
Yeah.
Children are being removed. And not every case. I'm not going to say we live in a fantasy world where there's absolutely no abuse or neglect or any of the true harm that does come to children. There is. But so often, and it's not just throwing money at it that fixes it. It's financial education and the system. You have parents who are working full-time jobs, and all of a sudden, their power bill raises 30%. Well, the power company is a monopoly, and they're the largest political donor in Virginia. Now, their power bill raises, they can't afford to pay it. A month later, their lights are turned off, they're evicted. Now they're homeless. Why? They're trying to find another apartment, but now they have an eviction on their record. Maybe their credit score is not great, so they were maxing out credit cards to buy groceries. That went up 40%. That's not an uncommon problem that we're having right now. And to have that problem in the wealthiest country in the world is insane. But what's crazy is it costs less to address that and fix that than it does to even go through the removal process and put a child into care. So these things not only are morally right, they save our country and our taxpayers money when we do it the right way. And then you look even farther and it's like, okay, well, how much of the system is truly failing because our workforce is being exploited or people are making bad decisions? And it's because the social safety net had failed generations before. And we have to give people an opportunity. You look at our education. That has a huge effect on foster care and cycles continuing. So when we can go in, when we can intervene, when we can do the things like what happened in the UK, when they rebuilt after war, where they put their social safety net, we can do that here and it benefits everybody.
I feel like we always hear that thing of like, it's actually cheaper to just create the solution on the like forefront of it, as opposed to, it's the same thing you hear in like the prison system, right? Like it's all of these sort of things in American society that we want to try to make better and whatever. And I think there is bipartisan agreement that like children should be taken care of, right? That it seems like there's just this, I don't know, lack of appetite. I've talked about this before a little bit. Like, I feel like education is one of those issues where it's just, it takes a while to like figure out what the system's going to be. So because of the short terms in Congress, because of even the relatively short terms in the Senate, like there's no one who wants to kind of put their weight behind it because it's a hard issue to attack.
It's a hard issue, and you just have to be like, well, can I get reelected?
Yeah.
I want to keep fighting it, and it takes money to get reelected because of the system we have right now. So, 10 years ago, you couldn't win a race without taking corporate money. I would argue today you almost can't win with taking corporate money. But 10 years ago, you couldn't, right? So you're taking money from Walmart, from Lockheed, from Deloitte, from BlackRock, places that are exploiting our populations. And you're taking that money to get elected, which means they have time for meetings with you. Social aware advocacy groups don't. And when they do, they're short. And the solution is a lot longer. We see so much of retribution politics. And to me, that talks to a bigger issue. I always say the question should never be if you can trust the president or not. The question is, can you trust our system to withstand any president? And right now, because of things like Citizens United, because of our democratic erosion, we can't. And that's a problem when it comes to addressing things like education and healthcare and foster care. But it's also a problem on the international stage. Our alliance with NATO and the trust that other countries can have in us. We've shown, great, even when we get rid of Trump and Hegseth and we rebuild, are we rebuilding a system that will be steady, not just a 4-year period?
Right.
So I wanted to just touch on foster care one more time, because you mentioned the big, beautiful bill. Do you feel that Democrats have also failed in helping this progress and bringing a lot of those issues to light as well?
Yeah. I mean, if there's one thing that the Democratic Party is terrible at, it is messaging.
Yeah. I think everyone can agree on that.
And, we talked about, can we trust the system? Well, let's be clear. We've been compliant in the system that has led to this. The system is on a house of cards because we are just as bad when it comes to things like insider trading in Congress and campaign finance. So we have to get that stability back. But even the messaging that it comes down to on foster care in the big, beautiful bill, we have let MAGA control the narrative on who the Democratic Party is, especially in our rural communities and our working class communities. Seats like my seat here in CD1. Yeah, we've made progress on flipping it, and it is. But if we refuse to go out into these rural areas and show up and say, this is what Democrats stand for, this is who I am, not just I'm against this, we've missed the mark there. Refused to do it. We haven't educated. So we've allowed them to say, oh, we're just cutting illegals off Medicare. These cuts to Medicare only affect people who aren't paying taxes, which we all know is not true, but we know that's not true. We know that's not true. These are complicated things. So they do take a complicated explanation, but we can't just allow Fox News to go and say, like, this is who's being cut. And then you have people like me, and I try to build a platform and say this and say, no, look, kids in care did not lose their health insurance, but what was covered under it did get cut. And I on the comments saying like, oh, well, like get a job then and put them on your health insurance. I have the VA. My husband has the VA. My kids have it. We both had full-time jobs. He was a civilian with the DOD. I was a director of sales for a corporation. Like we had plethora of insurance options. It's not legal for us to put our foster children on our health care.
I didn't know that.
And a lot of people don't, right?
Yeah.
And again, very niche, complicated thing. But even then, that shouldn't be the system, right? It shouldn't.
Right.
You happen to get placed with this family that has a better healthcare policy than this family.
Yeah.
So
that's wild. So I want to shift gears a little bit, but it's a kind of related, because I think that one area where we are seeing some messaging resonate is around the issue of data centers. And I bring this up because I was reading that Virginia is the data center capital of the country, which basically means it's the data center capital of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think the United States has more data centers than anywhere else. So Virginia has the most, then there we go.
Yeah. So Virginia has the most. And then the next closest to us is the entire country of China.
Wow.
Jesus.
It's nice to be in that category.
So we've talked about this issue a lot because I think it's something that is growing. I mean, I think this will be such a salient issue, of course, this election cycle, but definitely in 2028 as some of these bigger centers go up and have all this controversy around them. So you're on the ground in your district campaigning. It does seem to be an issue that unites people from both sides of
Yes.
the political spectrum. So what are people in your district saying? And then what are your thoughts on policies like the moratoriums that are being proposed and things like that? And would that resonate with your voters?
Yeah. So here we do not like data centers. Like I said, Dominion is the largest political donor in the state of Virginia, and we don't have caps for our state races, so they can give one person $1 in a state race, and they do.
Wow.
Right, left, independent, they don't care because it's a business investment, and they just raise rates 30% on consumers to pay for these data centers. At the same time, we have people having their lights go out. We have counties like the county of Henrico, one of the wealthier counties here, say, hey, we need teachers to turn off lights because we can't afford our power bill. The rates raised too high and we didn't plan for that as a county. They're a huge problem. I'm out on a well. I'm in a rural area. We just stopped one here in Hanover where I live that would have gone in basically our backyard.
Oh, wow.
And we would have had to sell our
Your
house.
water's screwed.
Our water
Yeah.
is gone.
Yeah.
Like I have a son who's deaf in one ear and he's losing his hearing in the other. The noise that they make would have caused such a problem for him. We would have had to move, but our house would have been worthless. We're not a witness. So we have been fighting them. We've been seeing such organic people organizing. A lot of times moms, because just don't piss off moms.
Yeah, it's true.
Don't piss off
So
moms.
true.
We're going to make some shit happen and fight against it, right? That's true for history. So,
Yeah.
but where I stand on fighting these at the federal level, my biggest thing is we have to have a moratorium on them. No more can go up until they can meet very, very clear requirements.
Mm-hmm.
They want to say that AI is the smartest thing in the world and this is going to just change like the Industrial Revolution. They have to prove it then. They can. And there are ways that these data centers operate in places like Europe, where they are solar powered, where they have closed loop systems, but these things cost them a lot more. Not an unaffordable amount, but so much so that they won't make the insane amount of profits that we're seeing from them right now because they don't create jobs. Not any long-term ones, not any great ones anyway. They just don't.
I know there's the whole thing of there's so many construction jobs. It's okay, but then what happens when the construction's over?
Yeah, and most of the time it's out of labor that they actually bring in anyway. They don't like to share that little.
Wild.
So I support a federal moratorium with them because number one, we cannot leave these states and especially the counties individually to fight against these. But we have to take ownership on taking this one step further. Yeah, we can say, all right, you have to meet these qualifications until you can do that. That is an awesome first step. But the next step there is, why are they going after our rural communities to begin with? And it's because we have not invested. We have left them right for the picking. These counties, like the ones I'm in, they don't have the funds to build the new schools that they need. They have rural hospitals closing. People are losing their homes already because we're in an affordability crisis. So what are they supposed to do? Raise property tax rates? So people who might even own their home outright or it's been their family for generations can't afford that. So data centers are able to come in and give all these false promises. Even the one that came in here, they're like, we'll give you $9 million invested into parks. They're just going to give it to the county that we could build some playgrounds. It's like, yeah, we need. Actually, we're failing behind our surrounding counties on that. But that's because we have left them available. So we have to do a New Deal investment project. For me, it's high-speed rail. But so small businesses can actually go into rural communities. Half of my district does not have broadband internet access.
That's
still in 2026.
That's wild.
In 2026. So how are we expecting companies to come in and want to invest and actually create jobs? Right? When it's like, hey, it's $9 million initial investment just so you can have internet into your building. That's unacceptable. So we've abandoned our communities. We've left them just ripe for the picking from data centers to come in and exploit them. I view it so much like coal mining in the Appalachian region that people needed help. And because the government wasn't providing opportunities, wasn't giving a safety net, coal mining went in and they just exploited those regions. And we are seeing that now. We're still seeing the poverty and the health issues and the education issues from that now. So the writing's on the wall. We have to stop it. We have to fix it. And I also believe not under this administration, but there has to be a task force and a fund within the DOJ, because we can't
Mm.
leave counties on their own to fight Google and to fight Track's lawyers in court. We asked, the one going in behind my house right there at the hearing, we said, hey, when you go, you say you won't go above this decibel at nighttime and this at daytime. And it was still pretty loud, but okay. You say that. What happens when I stand on my back porch with a decibel reader and it's higher than that? They're like, well, the county can impose the fine that. They're like, okay, so you just pay the fine. They're like, well, no, you'd have to go to court and prove it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, our counties can't do that.
Right.
It's exploitative. So we have to make sure that we are not just leaving counties on their own to fight this,
Yeah.
leaving
That's such a good
individuals,
point.
cities, and neighborhoods to fight this.
So to that, Elizabeth, I think data centers is a major topic right
Mhm.
now, and a lot of communities are dealing with it. It's something that we get a lot of DMs about as well. So to some of those listeners out there who might be dealing with this in their backyard, what would you tell them in terms of organizing? Is it showing
Yeah.
up to the hearings? Is it getting
Yes.
like what worked that you saw really had an effect here?
It was absolutely showing up to your planning commission, to your board of supervisors, bringing your neighbors, explaining at this point, you really don't have to explain the negatives of them that much, right?
Yeah.
Explaining that though, showing up and using that citizen time, flood the citizen time, make them stay late. No one goes to their board of supervisors meeting. Let's be incredibly clear. This like a new, and you also have to vote in your local elections.
Yeah.
I can do what I can in Congress to do this federally, but the decision until that goes through is really going to come down to your board of supervisors and to your local elections. Those matter. So ask them the tough questions. If they vote in a way that you don't agree with, they vote to bring in a data center and the community does not want one, vote them out.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Find run yourself
Right.
involved in this. But the biggest thing is, we have yard signs everywhere. There's a group of moms who organize this, right? And they're across the political spectrum. And I would say when you have speakers at these, when you plan out these rallies, they did rallies for an hour before going into the board of supervisors meetings. They had kids tables, which were great.
Mm.
Kids got involved. My kids love the say, hey ho, data centers gotta go.
I love
That's
it.
great.
They had that. They have speakers. They would have some musicians come. So it's fun. It's a very serious thing, but you make it fun. And they have yard signs that say grow tomatoes, not data centers. Hanover's home of tomatoes. That's our thing here. So find
Mm.
for your county that it's local. When it's a national level, it feels really hard to tackle.
Mm.
And that's my job. That doesn't have to be your job. But when it's local, it's a lot easier to get people to rally behind it, to get them in, to make it have fun. And if you've never spoke before, it's okay. Write your remarks down. It's not even what you say so much that's going to sway the board of supervisors. It's how many people show up to
Right.
speak
The power of
against.
numbers.
It's the power in numbers.
So you're in a pretty Republican district as well, and going up against a big incumbent. What I like the data center issue. Are there other issues that you're seeing a lot of support from both sides right now?
Yeah, the data centers is definitely a big one. And I think when we translate that also to, we can't just abandon rural communities and say like, oh, sorry, like you're just not going to get the revenue. It's no,
Mhm.
hey, look at the infrastructure bill.
Yeah.
The things that actually might bring you broadband now. Well, Whitman voted against that. He
Mhm.
voted against bringing jobs in. So yeah, now he's bragging that it's coming in, but he was a voice against it.
Right.
And that's where we're seeing a lot of people unite because, they can read headlines and say that, oh, it's a great economy because shareholders are doing well. They know that they're putting their groceries on a credit card.
Yeah.
They know that. They know that there are no jobs, that they are working harder than ever and have nothing to show for it. You don't have to tell people that. We don't need a report to say that all these things are unaffordable.
Mhm.
And then the one thing I would say in my district here, and I can't speak for the rest of the country, that's then unifying is healthcare.
Yeah.
People
Mm.
get terrified every day if they get sick, if their child gets sick, if they get in a car accident on the way into work. It's not just affordability of healthcare, it's also access of healthcare. We have 2 rural hospitals that are shutting down here. There's already areas that it's a 2-hour drive to go see an OBGYN.
Wow.
You're not gonna have a child or
Right.
raise a family there. So those are the 2 biggest is, it's affordability specifically going into
Those issues.
healthcare.
Mhm.
Farming is a big one in my district here.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, speaking of OBGYNs and parenting, you're a parent running for Congress. You're 29 years old. And I think that young parent demographic is often overlooked when it comes to running for higher office because it's really freaking hard to do. But I'm curious, just to like broaden out here as we wrap things up, what obstacles did you find you specifically had to overcome when you made this decision? You're like, I'm going to do this. What kind of support did you need to call on from your community, from your family, from your children? What was there anything internal that you were kind of like battling against of how am I going to, have the time and the energy to do all of this? And I recognize that, we should be asking these questions not just of women, but also of men. But I am very curious of your personal experience being a young parent running for Congress.
No, I appreciate that question. It's one that I'm always open to answering. And, I think some people have asked and they're like, yeah, I don't want it to be sexist or any of that. And I'd expect the same if you were talking to a
Yeah.
man who has young kids at home. But I actually think it's a really valid question.
Yeah.
One, because if other people are interested, they should be able to have this information and not just think like it's all sunshine and rainbows and
Yeah.
that I just had like the perfect support system to be able to do it. And 2, I am asking to represent almost 1 million people at the federal level. People have the right to know that I have the ability to be fully committed to them. So that is a valid question in my number 1, the support I needed from my family. This was a conversation between my husband and I, knowing that he would have to be picking more up, knowing that I would also not be bringing in income during this time, and it would have to pay for childcare, and I wouldn't be bringing in income. So the personal financial side of this, understanding, is it worth it to us that we will potentially go into debt for the first time, or like our savings will be gone. We will be on a very tight budget month to month. Savings will be gone, and we will have to change a lot of our lifestyle on this. Is that worth it? And we decided the answer is yes, but we are very fortunate to be in a situation where the answer is yes, which was part of why I was running. And then for our kids, we had a big conversation. Obviously, like you said, I'm a foster parent. So we talked to our social workers like, hey, will this affect moving through with an adoption? Will this affect that? Here's the safety measures we have in place for our kids' privacy, and that will continue to be in place. But I wasn't going to risk them. Like, what's the point of running for
Of
federal office?
course. Yeah.
Foster kids that affected the ones that were in my home. And the next step of that was the conversation with my kids and talking them through a lot of this understanding. I will say though, my daughters go to a lot with me, especially my 5-year-old, my oldest, my 5.5-year-old. She honestly really enjoys it. Like if she could read and write, she'd be a really good campaign manager.
She's gonna remember this experience.
Can't like
too.
drive me places.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted. I wanted them to be involved. I wanted them to know why I'm doing this, why it matters, and why I'm choosing to do it right now. That, yeah, it's going to take time from them. I'm going to be honest about that. But everything has balance. And the times where I can include them and I can involve them, I'm always going to.
Yeah.
Because this is their world that we're building. They have a right to be a part of building it. And then just, we don't have family around who can help. My dad and stepmom are close, but my dad is not well health-wise, and he can't watch my kids or any of that. But we have some friends, and they've offered to babysit or to come to events. But when you talk about young parents being overlooked in this, and so often, if you want to go to a political event, you need to hire a babysitter, buy a pretty expensive ticket, probably to have someone talk at you. And even when you talk, they're like, "Oh yeah, like I know childcare is unaffordable." well, no, I know childcare is unaffordable.
Yeah.
I
The
know
kids
you're
with
not
you.
drowning.
Yeah.
I know
I'm
you're
living it right now.
not eating off a cup of toast or buying lattes. I know that.
Yeah.
So you're welcome. We do park events that are meet and greets. So children can come. And you deserve to know your representative is a real person. And we are living in the world that we're building.
I love that.
We are struggling the same way that you are for things. This isn't a report on a piece of paper. I'm sending my child to the schools that I am voting on budgets for and that I'm advocating for. And that to me is the type of representation people deserve.
Totally.
Yeah, that was a great answer. And I feel that a lot of people don't feel politicians are real people anymore, with how some of them do act, and they
we
can't
see
relate.
that when a report comes out, the Democrats are paying $10,000 a month to appear more authentic online.
Yeah.
Have you ever just considered being authentic?
Yeah.
I know that's a crazy concept, but I'll bill you $10,000 for it.
For sure. Yeah. I think Anna and I might need to start that consulting gig.
Yeah. We need to get this $10,000.
But Elizabeth, so as we come to the end of this interview, we like to do a quick lightning round. Just a few questions, sort of what comes to mind. So the first one being, what's a hidden gem of your district that people don't know about?
Ooh, there's an ice cream shop out in Gloucester County. So it's a little hard to find, and I'd have to go find the name for it because my kids call it the Big Snow Cone. That's
Love
not
that.
its actual name, but it's what my kids refer to it. So you know what it is? So I'll get that for you. But it is a very old-timey ice cream. Everything's made by hand, but they had a Old Bay ice cream. Super good.
Wow.
Ooh.
Interesting. Would have not guessed.
But there's I think they have it's 55 flavors, and you can get a malt and a float, and they have some old candy and your old
I
style
love an
soda.
old ice cream parlor.
And
I know,
it's good.
I love that. As I'm
Amazing.
getting older, I feel more Joe Biden. I like ice cream more.
We all want to be
But,
Joe Biden with the ice
yeah,
cream now.
no.
Like, we get it.
Is there any podcast or book that's sort of shaping your thinking at the moment, or that you're enjoying right now?
I would love to tell you I have time to read a lot of books and
Yeah.
podcasts right now. They're not a book that I have been reading is VP Harris's 47 Days. I went to the book tour of it, and the way it's written, I think right now is really prominent for me. Just being broken down day by day, and at this point having 21 days left. That's one that's just kind of I have time that I can read for the 10 to 15 minutes, however long that day of the book is. And it just gives a little bit every day matters. Every day matters. We can do anything for 21 days.
I love that.
That's good. Favorite pump up song?
Ooh, so I actually have a whole playlist.
Amazing.
It's a run, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of my campaign ads and who I am as a person, I run. Which I'm not a great runner either.
But you like to
outrun
run.
it. I think it's from the Army. I outrun my kids.
Totally.
But I have a whole playlist called Stop Being a Little Bitch, The Country Needs You.
I love that.
It's a mix of Taylor Swift and Hamilton and Eminem, and I always just put it on shuffle. And
Oh my God. Can I steal that
Yeah,
playlist
you might need to
name?
share
I love
that.
I'm going to make that playlist for my husband. I'm going to make him a playlist that just says "Stop Being a Little Bitch."
I'm sure he's gonna love that. Term limits. Are you for them? Against them?
I'm 100% for term limits. I'm also, if I had to pick term or age limits, though, I'm picking age limits.
Yeah, we're certainly experiencing a lot of drama around that right now, for sure.
And last question. Tell us how the rest of your day is, or your typical day.
Typical day, wake up with the kids. It depends. My husband's a firefighter, so it depends on if he's on shift or not. But every morning I spend it with the kids. Normally we go to a playground and a splash pad, and I work on postcards there. The kids get to play. They get outside. They get out of my house after breakfast. And then we come home, and then I go into my office. I'm on my computer. I'll normally maybe go for a run then if I can, once our childcare is there. and I'm getting my initial work done, either filming videos, doing podcasts, having that. And then around 5 o'clock is typically when all of our voter facing events begin, whether
Mm,
being out at a candidate forum, or that's when we're door knocking, phone banking, and having our meet and greets. So normally I get home around 9, 10, depending on what part of the district it's in. And at that point, I finish up work and I go to bed around 1 and then wake up around 6 every day.
damn. Well, 21 days. You got
21,
this.
21 days. And then, after that,
And then maybe a lifetime.
well, but at that point, at least, we're not super strapped on fundraising, figuring out how we're going to make everything every day. And my husband will be taking a leave of absence from the fire department so that
Okay.
we can have a much stronger focus on our kids there.
Yeah.
And I can just commit and kind of not say,
Yeah.
I don't want to know what's going on at home, but like essentially I would like know what's going on with the kids, but like I'd have no idea when the trash is being put out. It would just
Totally.
put out. And that would be, no one would bother me with that until after November.
Because the country needs you. So
Yeah.
you got to stop being a little bitch. That's my
We're
favorite
big-
thing.
We're big fans, Elizabeth, and
Yeah,
we're with
thank you
this
so
whole
much.
way. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for joining us, and we're very excited to see what happens, and good luck in this home stretch.
Thank you.